and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Today, I am going to cover something that I get quite a few questions on, and that is when leaves won't unfurl on houseplants. So I'm going to share with you 10 reasons why leaves won't unfurl on houseplants, and then what to do about it to hopefully get them to unfurl. So it's exciting when you see a new leaf form and it hasn't unfurled yet at first. I think, oh goody. So for instance, here's one on this arrowhead plant that hasn't unfurled. So it's really nice to see that, to see the new growth, to see the leaf formation. But then if it's some time, a week or 2 or 3 goes by and it still hasn't unfurled, at that point it gets a little bit like, okay, come on now, let's unfurl, let's get this going. I want to see how pretty you look inside. So there are some plants that this tends to happen to more. Monsteras, the monsteras are one, the philodendron family of plants as well, pothos as well, bird of paradise, and then as mentioned, this arrowhead plant, the syngonium. So these particular plants, and there are others as well, but these particular plants can tend to kind of get stuck with their leaves not yet unfurling. So generally, there's nothing wrong. It's just something that you need to give the plant time to do. However, if you see the leaf that just for weeks is still sitting there, because it can take 2 to 3 weeks and sometimes more for a leaf to unfurl, okay? So, but if you see it sitting there for a really long time, then it could be one of these 10 things. I did have, just to show you, as mentioned, they generally will unfurl. So this one here hadn't unfurled, and it was a good 3 weeks before this one started to unfurl. One of the reasons is this plant has one of the issues that I'm going to be covering with you in terms of those 10 reasons. So the first reason is low humidity. Before I even start this, I want to say something. If your leaf still hasn't unfurled and you're just really anxious for it to unfurl, try not to unfurl it yourself. Because what can happen, number one, is you can unfurl it and it'll just roll back up again. A lot of times that happens. But in the meantime, what happens when you do that unfurling is that this is very tender new leaf tissue. So when you touch it like that, the oils on your hand, and even if you're being very gentle with your fingers, just the brushing of your finger on the new leaf is going to cause that leaf, once it does unfurl, to have a yellowing or browning or even a black spot in those areas where you were messing with it. So if you can avoid it, try not to unfurl the leaf. Let the leaf do what it naturally does. Now, if the leaf happens to be, I just did a bad thing to that one. I think I break it a little bit. I'm going to have to tape it. I have a video on how to tape something like that if you break it a little bit, and it will be okay. So don't do that. See, this right here was a perfect example of don't start messing around with these leaves, because as I mentioned, they're very tender. The stem is tender, the leaf itself is tender, and you can easily hurt it, harm it. So it's best just to let it do what it does naturally. But if I put some tape on that, it will fuse back together again. And I have a video on doing that with the coleus that I'll show you. So it will probably be okay. And if not, I have other branches as well. However, perfect example of, yes, be very careful. It's very tender new leaf tissue. So it's not something to be handling a lot and messing around with a lot. So you can talk to it and urge it to open, but try to do hands off with it. So the first thing is low humidity. If your home is 45% humidity or lower, that may be your problem. Try misting the plant throughout the day. That will elevate the humidity. I do have, I'll put a link below for a really good mister. It's actually a hairspray mister, but it does a really nice fine mist. Then there's also other ways to increase humidity. I'll put links to the various ways to increase humidity down below. And I'll be putting links to all the things that I'm mentioning down below as well, so that you can access these videos. Okay, so the humidity, as mentioned. And another thing is measure your humidity. So this is a hygrometer, a really good tool. I have a video on this too. And you see this, it's 79 degrees in here. It is summertime right now. But the humidity level is 55%. One of the reasons why the humidity level is 55% is I have a lot of plants in my house, and they humidify each other, and they humidify the air, and they humidify the air for me. So the more plants, the merrier, and the more plants, the more humid for your house plant, for your house as well, for your house plant kingdom. Okay, so keeping that in mind, if it's a low humidity, and it could be the location. So if you just move the plant to a more humid location, maybe a location where you have more plants, or the bathroom where there's more humidity, then that leaf may open up. Another thing, number 2, insufficient moisture. Okay, so the new leaves are growing. They're taking up moisture at a very quick rate. So it's really important that the soil isn't too dry. If the soil is too dry, then the plants are, the leaf is just going to sit there. So use your moisture meter. I have videos on how to use this too. This plant I recently did water, so you will see that it is in the middle there, so still moist, not ready yet for watering. And I had been keeping it pretty moist, and that I've determined isn't the reason for the slowdown in leaf opening. I'll let you know when we get to that point. Okay, so as mentioned, make sure to keep the plant well watered, not overwatered, but well watered. Monstera is another one. They do like a lot of water, so if you don't water them enough, that can be a prime reason why that leaf is not unfurling. Next reason, number 3, too much moisture, root rot. So if you rot out the roots of the plant, that leaf isn't going to open, because what happens is the roots are rotting. They are no longer sending. So it seems like, oh, well, they should have lots of water because I've overwatered. But what happens is the roots die back, and they no longer work, and they no longer send water to the leaf, to the stem, to the plant. So basically, it's it's the same thing as not watering enough, but you're watering too much, so you kill off the roots. So then the plant is still dying of thirst, basically. And I do have a whole root rot series as well, if you think your plant may have root rot. So I will link that as well. Okay, so that was number 3. Number 4, insufficient light. So if the plant isn't photosynthesizing enough to continue healthy growth, then it is not going to be able to have the energy that it needs to put into a new leaf. And if it doesn't have that energy, that leaf is going to open very slowly, or it may just continue to sit there. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Make sure the lighting is the right type of lighting for the plant. This arrowhead plant needs a medium light, not a real bright light. Not even medium bright can be a little too much light for this plant. So it needs a medium light, and it can even go in a little bit low medium light. So this plant has been in the right location, so that is not the problem. That is not the one. The next thing is too much light, and I just mentioned that with this plant. So if you put a plant in too much light for that particular plant, that stresses the plant, and the plant doesn't, it can even put the plant into shock when it has too much light. So if you do have a plant that you are thinking, maybe I don't have enough light for it, that's why that leaf's not uncurling, keep in mind to be careful if you put it into light. Gradually put it into light to see if that helps. Because if you put it from, say, medium light into bright light, you could shock the plant, and then that leaf will never open. And you could also sunburn the leaf. If you sunburn the outside of the leaf, like if this one were to get sunburned, when and if it does open, it will be blackened and brown. So basically not a good thing, right? So that's another thing, not too much light either. Another thing, temperature extremes. So in this regard, if conditions are too cool or too hot, generally speaking, if things are cooler than 65 degrees or higher than 85 degrees, that can stress a plant, and that could cause leaves not to unfurl as well. The nice thing about these hygrometers, and they are reasonably priced, is you will see at the top, like I mentioned, that it shows you the temp. So you've got the temp and the humidity in one cool little instrument here. Okay, so the next thing is number 7, and that is lack of nutrients. The plant requires nutrients to thrive, so if it's particularly nutrient deficient, it may not have enough nutrients for healthy growth. And if it doesn't have enough nutrients for healthy growth, it's going to have a hard time continuing to grow that leaf, because the leaf has to continue to grow in order to unfurl. You'll see when you see a leaf, keep an eye on it. Like this leaf is pretty long right now, but a week or so ago it was about 2/3 of this length. So it has to grow, and then it has to unfurl, and it has to grow to its eventual shape, and then it will unfurl. So if the plant doesn't have enough nutrients, then that is going to cause a problem. I've been trying this Perky plant out for a while. I really like this. Really cool thing about it, it also has mycorrhizae in it. You simply shake this into water, and it dissolves pretty quickly, and just pour it on your plants. So like I said, I've been seeing a lot of really good results with this. So that's, I'll put a link for that below. And I really like that it has a mycorrhizae in it, because as you've seen my videos on mycorrhizae, and I talk about that a lot, that this does help with root growth as well. So the stronger your root system, the better, the more likely you're going to have leaves that unfurl faster rather than slower. Okay, so that was number 7. Number 8, repotting or new soil required. And I say repotting because you could need to go up into a higher size pot, bigger size pot, or you may just need to repot in the same size pot because it's the right size pot, but the soil is too old. This is similar to lack of nutrients, that problem of lack of nutrients. The plant doesn't have sufficient nutrients in the soil. The soil may also be high in salts from fertilizing and watering over time, and also other things like fluoride and chlorine, things like that can build up, which aren't good for the plant. That will stunt the plant, make the plant not grow as healthy as it should. That's the problem with this guy. This guy has needed a repotting for a while, and so that is why the little bit of slowdown in leaves unfurling. However, it hasn't been that bad, but it has been much slower than it used to be. So that was my indication. That could be an indication for you if you are suspecting a plant does need to be repotted, or I could call it resoiled. Repotted or resoiled. That would be a good indication to you that it's time for that. And when I'm talking about resoiled, I would talk about this plant. I'm going to have to check the root system out, but this pot, and I always talk about the 2/3 plant to 1/3 pot combo. This pot may even be a little bit too big now. I'll have to check the roots since I didn't repot for a while. When I first put it in, it was the right size, but since I haven't repotted in a while, that will happen when you don't repot. As I mentioned, that salt builds up. The salt can deteriorate some roots a little bit. Or this may be the perfect size pot. It just needs new soil, and then it will start growing better, and it will start unfurling more quickly as well. Okay, so another thing, number 9, is pests. So pests love new growth. because it's tender and succulent. So check with a hand lens, and I have a video on using these guys and how great they are. This will show you. So check up close with a hand lens on the unfurled leaf, being careful not to break it, and check it to see if you see any signs of pests or diseases, because it could be that something like that the pests are causing the leaf not to unfurl because they're feeding on it and the leaf is stressed. This plant did have a prior case of scale. It's in another video. I don't have it. It's now cured. When I saw the leaf not unfurling for a while, I suspected that. Did check it out. Didn't find that. That was the case. And also when it starts to unfurl like this one, you can also check it out with the hand lens, and the hand lens, it magnifies quite a bit. It's also called jeweler's loupe as well, and I'll link to some below. Okay, so the 10th reason is plants just take their own sweet time sometimes. They do it in their own sweet time. It could depend on the time of year. Time of year will affect your houseplants. Even though you're growing indoors, even though you keep your home at a relatively stable temperature within 10 to 15 degrees, plants do know when it's spring and when it's summer and when it's winter. So fall and winter time, plants slow down growth. When they slow down growth, they're going to slow down the leaf development and slow down the leaf unfurling. Okay, so if it is a cooler time of year and it's opening very slowly, you may need to wait until it starts to warm up for the plant to then unfurl that leaf. If you're thinking, oh good, I can go and just put this, if it's winter time for you or it's cool, fall or winter, I can just go put this next to a heater or radiator wouldn't be as bad, but a forced air heating, I'll put it under forced air heating, it'll get nice and warm and it'll unfurl. Actually, I have another video on that. Try not to put your plants near forced air heating and air conditioning. But of course, in this instance, you would be trying to warm things up. Or if it's too hot, you may be trying to cool things down, right? But don't do that because it will dry out the plant and then you're going to have brown, and it could even crisp up and never open up. So it's not... Keep it in a warm room, but keep it away, especially from the draft. So 10th reason, as mentioned, time of year. You may just have to wait till spring, have a party when the leaf finally unfurls, take photos, and have your friends over and have some cupcakes. So there you go with the 10 reasons why leaves won't unfurl and the various things that you can do about it. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. You may also see there's a new thing called Thanks. It's called Super Thanks, and that is another way to donate to my channel to help me answer all of those questions that I do answer, because I try to answer, for the most part, all of the questions that people have on my channel, and that does take a lot of time, and then the videos themselves do. So it's just another way, in case you haven't seen that icon and you're not familiar with it, another way to support my channel, which I really appreciate, and I really appreciate your viewership and subscriptions as well. And there you go for, once again, 10 reasons why leaves won't unfurl, and with one of these reasons, or some of it could be a combo, you can figure out what the problem is and start getting those leaves unfurling. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.